Welcome back to a new video. This time it's my full review of the Exway X1, which is this baby here, the big longboard electric skateboard from the Exway company. They took great care in designing the skateboard because they wanted to have a solution that is not just great for performance rider, but also for people in the everyday life. First thing you can notice when you look at the board is that everything is built into the board, meaning that there's no battery pack bulge in under the board. There's no wires that are apparent. Everything is well designed inside the board. So the only downside from that is you lose your flex. This board is waterproof to IP55, meaning that you can ride in puddles. You can ride it in the rain also, although it's pretty dangerous. Like, you don't need to be afraid of the board getting wet. You don't need to be afraid of the motor shutting down because there's a short circuit. None of that will happen. Everything is sealed. Everything is tucked away in a way that is very, very secure. The deck is about 36-inch long, so it's quite long for you guys, 93.5 centimeters, I think, if I remember correctly. This board has a concave shape, meaning that you can place your feet on the board and you have a little edge in the front and in the back of your feet to give you a better grips. So this really helps when you're carving and you're more aggressive turn or tighter turn. This is much better than just a flat piece of board. Like, if you remember one of my past videos, I had the Windboard, the GT M8 2.0, which was a very stiff and very straight piece of wood. In this case, it's not the case. It's very thin and it's concave, so that's great. The other thing that's pretty great about this board is, even though it's an electric skateboard, yes, it is made in China. However, there's a company in the US backing this. They have Seismic trucks. So they are trucks made from the company called Seismic. So this is a skateboarding trucks company. Seismic has been making trucks for many years, so they know how to make a good, sturdy and quality truck. So the bushings on this board are actually made for these trucks. So they have a special shape, so they're not the regular donut shaped bushings. They actually have a geometer of 98. So they're, I would say, okay for most people. If you're more on the heavy side like me, you need something a little bit harder because it's too wobbly and high speed if you're heavy like me. Therefore, I should, for my weight, change it for 94As or 96As. I actually purchased 96As from Seismic, and they're coming in the mail soon, so I'll probably be making a little update video on how to change your bushings on this board. Speaking of speed, this board has a top speed of 25 miles per hour, which equates to 38 kilometers per hour. I am 250 pounds, and I am able to reach that 38 kilometers quite easily. I have speed radars in my neighborhood that can account for the speed that actual laser radars can record, and I'm going easily at 38 kilometers per hour. However, if I compare my speed with the other boards I had ridden in the past, which did not have any remote that reported the speed, and I didn't have at that time those street radars, I actually was able to get on the Koowheel D3M version 2, I was able to achieve 40-41 kilometers per hour. Well, using the same app I'm using, which is the Ride app, with this app I was able to achieve 43 kilometers per hour. So it's a crazy speed. Of course, wear your protections, helmets, gloves, knee pads, elbow pads if you need them. In terms of range, this board actually advertises 15 miles of range. So that's about 22 kilometers of range. My current usage pattern is to use the board to go to work, and from work to go back to home in the evenings. This is a drive of about 4.5 kilometers, and I'm able to, of course, do this no problem. However, because of my weight and because of the way I drive, oops, light problem. So with the way I drive the board, I'm a heavy guy, and I also drive as fast as I can. Therefore, this board is in the 4th speed, which is the fastest speed, which allows me to reach that 38 kilometers per hour. I drive hard, I carve hard also. I don't like to just go straight. I like to carve a lot on the streets. I also need to stop at many red lights on my way to work. Therefore, I need to stop completely and start back. I do kick push to give me a little more range with the board. However, I'm only able to do at the full speed with my current weight about 6 or 7 kilometers of range. So that's about 4 to 5 miles of range when going full speed ahead, always maximum acceleration. I specify maximum acceleration because this board comes with a mobile app which allows you to actually change the settings of the control of the board. You can change the top speed, you can change also the acceleration curve, you can also change the braking curves. All that gives you much more options for your preferred riding style. For example, I have the 4th speed set to maximum everything. So I have maximum speed, maximum acceleration, and maximum braking. So that's what I usually use morning and night, always. However, if I know that I need to go further than about 4 or 5 kilometers, then what I do is I change it back to the 3rd speed. 3rd speed, I have it set to 80% acceleration and 75% maximum speed. Therefore, instead of reaching that 38 kilometers per hour, I usually go at about 24, 23 kilometers per hour. So it's slower. However, the acceleration being lower, it takes more time to reach that actual top speed. And that gives me more range. The braking though, I keep it at maximum because what I want is that if I need to brake for some emergency or for whatever reason, I need that to work fully. So that's why I have it set to 100% for the braking. So the mobile app also allows you to disable the reverse. There's also firmware updates, so you can update your board. The remote only showed the remaining percentage of battery for the remote and the board when you started the remote. Once you were on the remote and you were using it, there was no display of the actual capacity. So it was always a game of shutting it down and starting it back up to get the actual percentage of battery left on the device. So they changed that. Now it's written in a smaller font, but actually you can see it on the remote at any time. Also in the latest firmware update, there was a mention of different wheel size. So although this is not confirmed by the manufacturer, I'm guessing that something is going to be coming this year or next year for the different wheel size. The current wheel are 80 millimeters with a Droometer of 88. So the app allows you to change the wheel size because the way the remote calculates your speed is it knows how many turns the back wheels are doing and it multiplies this by the actual circumference of the wheel. So if your wheel is bigger, you're going to be able to travel a longer distance in one single revolution. Therefore, you need to adapt this in your app to account for different wheel size. One of the only downsides I've seen with this board, the quality is great. Everything is super sturdy. The only piece that has problems to me is the back wheels. And the problem with that is that the PU that they attach around the hub motors is quite thin. Therefore, if you hit rocks, if you hit debris on the road, eventually what happens is that your wheels are getting cracked. I had the very same problem with the Koowheel, probably because, once again, the PU was so thin that it did not absorb shocks properly. Also, the core of the wheel is the hub motor. It's a big piece of aluminum, so it's actually hard. So there's less bouncing back and forth, and this wheel absorbs everything. If you compare it to the front wheels, which are regular skateboard wheels, they have a core that is made of hard plastic, but it's also quite thick. This way, if you hit a bump or if you hit a rock or whatever, even a sharp object sometimes, you won't get any damage to your wheels. So if you have the same problem as me and you really want to change it, well, the good thing is that in the box, there's a spare set of PUs for the back wheels. One of the cool things I mentioned in the review was the charging port. Instead of plugging a regular good old 12-volt adapter inside the board, you actually have a little flap that you move away and you can use the charger to connect it, and it's a magnetically connected charger. There's only one button on the board, it's the power button, so you can actually power it off, power it on. The cool thing is that the board can go into sleep mode and can be like that for like 5 minutes, 5 hours, a day, whatever. So charging takes about 2 hours. That's how I have it set. I have a timer set to my charging station for my skateboards, and I have like 1 hour, 2 hours, 4 hours, and I just hit 2 hours and I'll always reach 100%. Of course, I never got the board down to zero and not able to ride at all, so that's why 2 hours is more than enough, but I think the official charging time from 0 to 100 is about 2 hours and a half. In terms of maintenance, the real only maintenance you need to do with this board is, like I said earlier, is just the bearings. So you can remove the back wheels and the front wheels, have them cleaned every season, or if you ride in the rain, maybe a couple times per season, so that's really up to you. The rest, like I said, it's all internal, so you don't need to unscrew anything on the board. You don't need to access any electronics. So what about the experience? Having been on this board for a couple of weeks, I can say that it really is a joy to ride. You have power. In terms of hub motors, in the past I've tested the Windboard GT-M8, I have tested the Juice board, I tested the Koowheel D3M version 2. Out of all these boards, this is the one that's actually the most powerful. The Koowheel actually burned down because I was running it always in the speed mode. You have 4 modes to ride. All four are authorized and none of them will break the board per se. The fourth mode is faster than the Koowheel, and it's also safer because you can always change the settings. So if you're the kind of person that is very small or light, oftentimes if you break very suddenly, you could be thrown out of the board if you're not well positioned or not used to that. So what you can do with this board is you can actually change that in the app and have it set to a lower setting so you don't get thrown out of your board when you break. So all of these things make this board really the most customizable I've seen, and really is the most fun to ride because you can set it exactly how you prefer it. If you're someone like me who wants 100% everywhere, and you put it super fast and you put it super strong for acceleration, then it's a joy to use. If you're the one type of person that really wants that differently, well, do it as you wish. It's your board, you can set it up as you want. So in terms of power, the only thing that this board has in terms of limitations is there's some voltage sagging. Your first 60% of the battery is going to be full powered, meaning that you accelerate at a very constant rate and very fast. If you, let's say, do some errands and after a while you go back on the board and it's about 20% battery left, you're going to feel that you have a lot less power. This is something that many electric skateboards are suffering from. So this is not something special to this board. Many boards have it. It always depends on the way they implement the power management system. There are some other boards that this was awful to a point where the last 10% cannot even be ridden. In this case, I've never had complete or very near complete slowness. This board has always been reliable. It's just that the power is not there at the end like it is at the beginning. So you need to be aware of that. And the only way to fix that is to basically charge it. You just plug it in and then you top off your battery. You go back into that little 70 and 80% kind of range, and then you get a full power. So do I recommend this board? Yes, I do. I had a good experience with the Juice board, but the remote was cheap and the performance was much better in the second generation, which I was only able to run for a couple of days before last winter came. This one has all of those nice things, plus a better remote, plus better performance, plus it's also IP55, and the shape is concave. And also, if the app is to be believed, new wheel styles will be coming in the future. These are real trucks, so it's a quality built product. And when I mentioned earlier that this was a Chinese made product, is that yes, the assembling is made in China, but there's actually a company in the US that handles everything for us. Meaning that if you have a problem with your board, they offer support. If you need a spare part, if you need a replacement part, they have all that. So you don't need to wait like a month like I had to do with Windboard. With this, everything's in the US, so it's very easy to just call them or email them and get the replacement part you need. I highly recommend this board. For a hub motor, I was always on the fence between hub motors and belt driven system, simply because I'm heavy and I'm tall and I would like good power. In this case, with the Exway, it's the very first hub power motor skateboard that I highly recommend for any size of person. Of course, you don't get the 50-mile range if you ride aggressively like me and if you need as much power as I do. However, it's quick to charge and it's a great board that gives you enough range. If you need really good range, you just lowers your speed and you should be fine for close to that 15 miles that they promise, even if you're heavy like me. So that's it for this review. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below. Don't forget the little thumbs up and subscribe. There's going to be more reviews in the future, more skateboards, more tech, more video stuff, more camera stuff. Have a nice day.